Hi guys, it is November, which means it is time to start preparing some Christmas music if you want to be ready by December to just sit down at your piano and play some great sounding songs for your family and friends. So today we're going to be starting with Winter Wonderland. Winter Wonderland is this great, actually not even a Christmas song, it's just a winter song, but it is a great one to learn. It's fun, it's easy. We're going to be using some chords, so let's actually start by talking about the chords that we're going to be using. We're going to be playing a C. We are also going to need a D minor 7. And finally, we are going to be using a G. Okay. The reason I say finally is because in the key of C, those are the 3 chords that you are going to need in this song. There is a key change a little bit later. We're going to talk about that when we get there. But for now, let's just look at the first and most familiar part. Here we go. Sleigh bells ring. That's the first part of the song. So we're going to just look at the chord shapes here first. First, we have a C. Okay, this is a C major, very, very straightforward. 1, 3, 5 with a C bass in the left hand. If your hands are small, you find it's hard to play the octave, just play a single note. That's fine as well. Okay, I'm going to be playing the octave here. You'll also notice that I have a bit of a pulse in my left hand. If you choose to incorporate that, that's fine. If you find that that throws you off, just play it once and hold it while the right hand plays. Okay, so that's an optional thing there. So C major is our first chord. The next one is a D minor 7. So for those of you who are curious about why this would be called the D minor 7, although we're starting on C here, just imagine that C, we can also play that on top. Reposition the hand. And here we have a D minor 7 again. Okay, so we'll just invert that C back down, and here we have a D minor 7. It's just voiced a little bit differently, okay? For those of you who don't really know too much about chords, that's no problem. Play the C, and then you're just going to play the 2 notes on either side of the E here and change the left hand to a D. Okay, after that, we've got a G chord. And again, this G chord isn't immediately evident as a G chord. It's because it is inverted. The G is on top rather than being on the bottom. Okay, we would call this the first inversion of G. So for those of you who are familiar with triads and their inversions, we are playing a G in the first inversion right over here. Now, I'm going to move straight on to the next section, and then we'll put the melody in for all of these, okay? First, maybe actually before you move on to the next section, just review these 3 chords, the C major, the D minor 7, and the G in the first inversion, just like that. Just pause the video, practice that as long as you need to. All right, when you're ready to move on, let's just move that B here to the top. So this is now G in the second inversion. All right, so we were down here before. Let's move the B up, reposition the hand. The left hand is still going to stay on the G. Now, if you were watching closely before when I demonstrated this, you'll notice that the right hand stayed in this exact same chord position and just walked down. I'll show you that one more time. And there on the very last note, we can call that our landing chord or whatever. This one, we do change the hand shape a little bit there. We'll talk about that in a second. Okay, so over here, we've got that G inversion, and don't worry too much about what the names of the chords are. Just keep on walking that right hand down. Always white notes. There are no black notes needed here. Keep going until you get down here to where you're about to play the C there with finger number 5. Okay? The thumb does still stay on the E, so you could use that shape, except that you need to switch fingers 2 and 3 around. Okay? So, and change the left hand now to a G. So that's the chord progression there. Practice that until you're comfortable with it. What we're going to do now is go back to the beginning, and I'm going to incorporate a melody. If you're not comfortable, maybe you're more of a beginner and you're not comfortable incorporating the melody with the chords, then just play the chords. It's no problem. You can always just provide the melody with your voice or have someone else sing. Sleigh bells ring, are you listening? In the lane, snow is glistening, a beautiful sight, we're happy tonight, walking in a winter wonderland. Okay, so it's no problem to just play the right hand chords as they are. If you feel like you would like to include a melody here, let's just look. The melody is at the top of each of the chords. The way I have voiced them, you'll find the melody at the top or close to the top. So the very beginning, all we need is the G and the E, okay? And when you add in those harmony notes underneath, you'll notice that they just kind of stay here and the pinky does all the work. Okay, so you play those harmony notes when you feel that it's appropriate. Usually I would play it on the beat. 1, 2, 3, 1, just like that, okay? Now, we're going to play a very similar melody for In the Lane, Snow is Glistening. Just keep in mind that you're going to be using the D minor 7. In the lane, snow is glistening. Now, you'll notice here, when we landed on the word glistening, you'll just have to play the F together with this G chord that we talked about there before. Just play the F first when you land on this chord. So on the word glistening, just do that on its own for a few times if you need to. Glistening. You'll notice here, actually, these notes, they just always skip over one white note. Okay, so starting on the G here, just skip a note, skip a note, skip a note. You'll find that this fingering pattern here also works the best, to use 1, 2, and 4 here in the right hand. So it's glistening like that. Okay, so let's just do that one more time here from the beginning. Sleigh bells ring. Are you listening? In the lane, snow is glistening. Now, we're ready to go up here into the second inversion of G. The melody does start on the G, but then other than that, it's just always in the pinky. So you just play the pinky along with the words. Beautiful sight, we're happy tonight, walking in a winter wonderland. And keep in mind at the end there, we are switching fingers 2 and 3 out there, so you can land there on that C inversion. Now, for Gone Away is the Bluebird, you would do the exact same thing again. Is the bluebird here to stay? He sings a love song as we go along, walking in a winter wonderland. So now that we have learned the first part of Winter Wonderland, we are going to look at the key change. In the meadow, we can build a snowman. So let's take a look again at the hand. This is where we are going to move the left hand into E. So again, let's look at those chord shapes here first. So first, we have an E in the left hand. So in the right hand, we're actually going to be playing an E major chord. You'll notice that the keyboard is showing an A flat. For those who are theory nerds like me, you'll notice immediately that should actually be called a G sharp, but I cannot change what the software is showing there. So what we have here is an E major chord, all right? But we are inverting it down. So this is all about inversions here today. So let's invert that B down to the bottom, reposition the hand. This is position number 1. Okay, when you've got that position, you're just going to move these outside 2 notes, the B and the G sharp, A flat here, just move those up, but keep this E right here in the middle. Okay, so you've moved up here to a C sharp. I know the page is showing you D flat, but that's okay. We've got the A here. So you may want to just practice going back and forth a few times between these 2 chords in the right hand. notice I am using my second finger here. You could also use the third finger and then switch to 2. You'll find likely that it's very uncomfortable to use 3 right there. So you do want to use 2 when you play this other chord here. I can name it for you. Maybe you've already figured it out. If you just move that A down to the bottom, here we have an A major chord. Okay, so we've gone from an E major to an A major. So we are actually in the key of E here. Okay, again, though, working with those inversions. Okay, so here we go. In the meadow goes with this first chord. We can build up goes with the second chord. And then we're going to come back down here to that E. Snowman. We're going to repeat that. We'll pretend that he is Parson Brown. Now, if you don't want to sing along, you actually do want to just play the melody. The melody is found on the outside of those chords. You'll notice when I played the B, the first part of the melody, I did not add in those other 2 notes of the chord. Because when the melody is on the bottom, it tends to get lost by those top, it is overpowered or overshadowed by the top notes. So we are just going to use the bottom. When you play the top note, then by all means, you can add in your harmonies. Now, for We Can Build a Snowman, we're going to pivot there to the C sharp. We can build a... So it's the same thing, bottom of the chord to the top of the chord. Okay, so bottom of the chord to the top of the chord, bottom of the chord to the top of the chord. And finally on Snowman, we've got that first chord again, the E chord, but we are going to start there at the top and then finish on the E. The whole time you can still play that B. So I'll show you that one more time, just in the right hand. In the meadow. Move to position 2. We can build up. Back to position 1. Snowman will be the A flat here / G sharp actually, down to the E. Snowman. Repeat this exact same thing again, always staying on the E in the left hand. And pretend that wasn't very clean. I'll show you that one more time. We'll pretend that he is Parson Brown. Now we have another key change. This time we actually have to change to the key of G. So if you recall, this is the G second inversion. We used that earlier. The left hand is going to play the G. We're going to do something very, very similar for this part. For He'll Say, Are You Married? Again, this is chord number 1. We're just going to move those outside 2 fingers up by 1 and keep this middle. And then back down. Okay? Now, again, if you're singing the melody, he'll say, Are you married? We'll say, No, man. So you can just play the chords as they are. But if you would like to add in a melody, here you go. You just start at the bottom, same pattern that we had previously, just bottom, top. And on the top note here, I am adding some harmony notes just because it sounds good. Move into position 2. There we are. Back down into position 1 from the top to the middle. Okay? You only do that once though for this section. Now, here is where things get just a little bit more interesting. We are going to move the left hand up here to the A, and we're going to play a very cool sounding chord. This, it says there A minor 9. I like the C major 7 over A. That is actually better. That's what I'm after right here. So if you look at this C major 7 here, it might, again, maybe it's a little confusing. So let's just undo the chord a little bit. We'll put it in, we'll reorder it. So rather than play the C at the top, we can play it right down there on the actual C. And you can actually see it here. Okay? Now, here, actually, if I want to be true to what I've said before, there's the melody note. So So you know what? Let's actually play it like that. Not in this other inversion. I've changed my mind there. Okay, so we're going to go down to this chord right here. It's also a little bit easier to see. All right. Now the melody is right up in here. So you can see the E to the B. This is a fifth here. Okay, if you were only playing this, you can do that as well. Okay, but I like adding the C in there. So it's up to you. If you find that C is too much and you just want to play this E minor chord, that's okay as well. And now we've got Job While You're in Town. So that was, but you can do the. Now we're going to go Job While You're in Town. So here we go. This is your D7 chord. All right. So you'll notice here, this is our D major chord. Notice that the F is sharp here. This is the first time, oh no, actually we have run across the C sharp in the song before, but here you go, make sure that F is sharp. Now, it does sound fine just to play a D chord. Jump while you're in, da, 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 da. There are the melody notes. However, it sounds better to put in the D. So you'll just have to scooch the hand around and use finger 2 on the D so your thumb is freed up to play the C. There you are, back in G first inversion. All right, I'm going to show you that part there one more time. We'll take it from He'll Say, Are You Married? So there we are. This is at the beginning where we move into the key of G. Keeping in mind, G is in that second inversion. The left hand plays just the G. The melody is at the bottom and the top of the chord. Move into the second chord. Back down into the first chord. Here I have switched to finger 4. It just feels better that way. If you want to go back into your original fingering, that's fine. Okay. Now, over here, we had said that we're going to move into this. We're going to play the C major 7 over A, that's right, in this voicing. So actually, again, if you look at the keyboard here, you start here at the B and just play every second note down all the way to your thumb in the left hand and add in that pinky there. Okay, it sounds really great. As we said, we don't have to play all of these notes. We can also just play the E minor chord here. Okay, so that was the first chord here in this section. The next one, basically you're just moving these two down here. All right, from there, let's add in that F sharp and let's move the left hand into the D. You can just play a single D there with your third finger. If you're comfortable, move down into the D octave. All right, so you could just play Jump While You're In, again, just top and bottom. But, like we said before, it does sound better if you can just add in that D. So, switch your fingers around so the second finger is on the D. And then you're right there. Keep the second finger on the D. Just bring your pinky down and your thumb down onto the G and the B. Okay? And change the left hand to a G. That's Town. All right? That is the end of that section. Do a little walk up there in the left hand because it does sound cool. I'm going to show you that one more time just from But You Can Do the Job. But you can do the job while you're in town. Okay, so that's the end of the key change. From there, we go back into Later On, we'll conspire as we dream. To face unafraid the plans that we made, walking in a winter wonderland. You can repeat to face unafraid. All right, so there you have the key change from the E. And there we go. We repeat that twice. Then we change up to the G. Okay? But you can do the job while you're in town. And then back to the beginning, which you learned last time. So that is Winter Wonderland. Take each part slowly, learn bits by bits. Bit by bit. It's a little bit like eating steak. You cannot take big chunks and chew them all and expect them to all stick. You have to do it in small chunks and chew them really, really well, to use the analogy of eating steak. So you learn 3 chord shapes and you just practice going back and forth between those 3 chord shapes. You only ever do one thing at a time. So you don't want to add in the rhythm at that point. You just learn those shapes. Then if you're adding in a rhythm, go ahead, let's add in that rhythm. And then you're at least set up to just play it accompaniment style. Then you can play it with a singer. And then if you're ready to add in the melody, that is the hardest step. You want to save that one for last.